Mr. Justice Colton found the protocol, a hotly contested issue between the UK and EU, conflicts with the 1800 Act of Union. However, legislation enacting the protocol in Parliament has repealed part of the Act of Union. Judge Colton said political and constitutional tumult had followed the Brexit referendum in 2016 and the case before him involved a complex and contentious situation. The government had argued if there was a conflict between the legislation passed as a result of the Brexit deal with the Brussels bloc and the Act of Union, then the conflicting portion of the Act of Union had been impliedly repealed. The case had hinged on an argument that foundational constitutional law can only be amended explicitly in primary legislation and not in an indirect way. The applicants claim the deal between the UK and EU breaks the 1800 Act of Union, and despite Parliament passing the protocol in primary legislation, fundamental constitutional law can only be undermined if there are clear and unambiguous words to that effect in an Act of Parliament. They had also argued the protocol clashes with Article 6 of the Act of Union, Ireland, Act 1800, which details the need to free trade within the British Isles. But a lawyer for the government told the High Court the protocol is an orthodox application of parliamentary sovereignty. Tony McGleenan QC said the applicants were effectively asking the court to ignore the will of Parliament expressed in primary legislation. He also argued Northern Ireland remains within the UK's custom territory and subsequently, the Acts of Union has not been breached. The judge ruled other lawful modern Acts of Parliament clashed with the Act of the Union, adding there was no precedent for the 1800 Act annulling modern legislation. Mr. Justice Colton also said the up-to-date legislation has supremacy over the Act of Union. In response to questions from Ian Paisley Jr. during Prime Minister's Questions (PMQs), Boris Johnson said his government will study in detail the High Court ruling on the protocol. Mr. Paisley Jr. had urged Mr. Johnson to reverse mistakes of the protocol.